the Financial Sector Conduct Authority and the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Commission, entered into a memorandum of understanding this week, and this is in the interest of promoting transformation in the financial sector and the economy at large. And joining me now on the line for that conversation is independent analyst Khaya Sithole and Kershia Singh, who is the head of markets, customer and inclusion research at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Thank you both so much for your time. Khaya, I think let's start off with you. Talk us through what's the current state of transformation in the financial services industry 30 years after democracy.
Good afternoon to the viewers. So I think one of the great tragedies in relation to transformation in the financial sector in South Africa is the simple question of the reliability of the data that we collect. So what we do know is that every single institution that is at the epicenter of financial services, whether you speak to the banks, whether they speak to insurers, they will all anecdotally say, no, we think that transformation has progressed. But what we found is that it's very difficult to find sort of legitimate reference points or a dashboard that says this is the best collection of data, this is where we've been, and this is what is happening in the sector. And of course, there's a couple of institutions that exist in the ecosystem whose mandate includes the idea of transformation. But I think up until now, up until we've seen this memorandum of understanding, perhaps the alignment in the data collection process and in the reporting processes hasn't been as good or as strong as it needed to be for us to be able to say that if somebody asks a question tomorrow, here's a singular reference point that everybody agrees provides a picture of transformation at a particular point in time. So at this stage, we know that progress has been made, but we actually are struggling to figure out how much that progress has been and whether that progress itself is sufficient in relation to the resources that have been put behind transformation, and also obviously the national mandate of making sure that we progressively move forward every single reporting period.
Kershia, let me bring you in here. The FSCA recently published its strategy for promoting financial sector transformation. Does it consider that changing landscape of the sector, as I just said, it's 30 years into democracy, and what kind of transformation should we be seeing in the industry that we're not quite?
Hi, good afternoon, Tokozo and viewers. I couldn't agree more with what Khaya Sithole has just said. I think the issue of the submission of data is a big one that we're seeing as well. And I think the role that we're seeking to play is really to strengthen and improve the availability and reliability of data in relation to transformation of the financial services sector, so that we can start making informed decisions and plans about where our areas of focus need to be. I think even on the data that we are getting, for example, the latest FSCA annual transformation report shows that the financial sector is not meeting any of the targets set in the Financial Sector Code. That's for the 2020-2021 reporting period. And actually, we don't have a report more recent than that because of issues with data collection from the sector. So certainly, we would like to be making more informed calls on where to focus attention on transformation, and that does require that we have a credible basis of information on what it looks like in the sector at the moment.
And Khaya, maybe just to come back to you from your point of view, who should be responsible for then ensuring that we do have that accurate data? But also, some of the criticism that comes with such issues is that these big companies will just get that slap on the wrist and keep it moving without actually being forced to drive that transformation. So looking forward, what do regulators then need to do to ensure that that compliance, we get that right, or do we need a change in strategy altogether?
So I think obviously the critical issue that you need to resolve is the fact that regulators and regulatory agencies don't have the same resources that market participants tend to do, particularly in the financial services sector. So what we've seen with the FSCA in particular, which I have chaired at some point in time, is the reality that the ability to come up with the right instruments that are able to get the most accurate and the most relevant data at any point in time isn't particularly strong on the regulatory front, and regulatory agencies sometimes also struggle to marshal enough resources to be able to put the information together. So it really does require the buy-in, particularly of the market participants themselves, so that even if we do write the rules and say this is the type of data that needs to be collected, then you do not find resistance at the market participant level where the data collection points are frustrated by the inability or the unwillingness, rather, of some market participants to provide that information. So I do think that we do need a stronger collaboration between the different agencies that have different interrelated mandates. So if you look at what the FSCA can do and the FSCA can do and the BE Commission can do, you should be able to say that collectively we should be able to get an idea of what the picture of transformation is at any point in time. And until we have those collaborations right, so we understand how far each agency's resources can stretch and each agency's mandate can stretch, it will be very difficult for us to know who should be the primary reference point for this information. So I do think that this is an important conversation starter. It's an important initiative that is going to kickstart a process of more comprehensive collaboration across all the agencies that have been given particular mandates, so that we should be able to say that the collective inputs give us this particular picture, and there must be consensus between market participants and the regulators, because one of the strangest things that you always find is that regulators will say things are not happening, and of course politicians will always agree that things are not happening, but when you speak to individual market participants, they all say, oh no, everything is progressed so well. So we need to actually cut down on that information gap and that information asymmetry that seems to be born out of the fact that the data sets exist in different points. The data synthesis exists in different points. We don't have a comprehensive picture that is being put together. And we're obviously hoping that the FSCA, with the resources that it has, and the BE Commission, with the mandate that it has, actually just triggers a conversation that gets us to a point where we can all say, this is where you must go whenever you need to know what the picture is. And no one is going to second guess that particular information set, because the credibility and the legitimacy of the process is remarkably important.
And Kershia, just talking about going after those big players, improved collaboration between the different regulators, where does that leave the smaller players, entrepreneurs trying to get into the industries, SMEs? How are they then nurtured to be able to grow within the financial services industry?
I think that's also another focus of the FSCA's transformation strategy, is making sure that our own regulatory requirements aren't posing undue burdens to entering the sector in the first place. And we also run support programs for small and emerging financial institutions to assist with complying with the regulatory landscape, understanding regulation. We would like, through our partnerships with various stakeholders in the sector, to also be able to make resources available to smaller types of financial service providers, so that they are also able to enter the sector, that they're able to compete, and they're able to offer a competitive array of options for financial customers in South Africa as well. So definitely also a big focus of our transformation strategy is seeing more of these players entering the market as well.
And Khaya, maybe just help us close this conversation by helping the viewers understand the importance of transformation in this industry for consumers like myself and you, everyone on the ground. Just why is transformation so important in the financial services industry?
I think the simple answer is that the financial sector is basically the nucleus or the heartbeat of South Africa's economy these days. Many years ago, the mining sector owned that particular role, but I think in reality, what we've seen is that the reliance and the importance of the financial sector to the country's economy has become so fundamental. You want this to be the sector that buys into the national mandate of transformation. Whether you're looking at it in its capacity as an employer, and it is definitely a large-scale employer if you look at how many people the banks employ and the insurance companies employ, and also obviously the way in which it can package and create instruments that are able to respond to the type of issues that South Africa is trying to address. This is essentially the heartbeat of South Africa's economy. So you do not want a sector that is this important to then be falling behind in really following on the national transformation mandate. So you want it to be the type of sector that says, we understand what South Africa's historical issues are, we understand what South Africa's social issues are, and we are explaining how we are playing our meaningful role in actually making sure that the country moves forward. So I think it is a sector whose importance cannot be underestimated simply because of how intersectional it is to absolutely every single thing that we do within the economy.
Well, thank you both so much for your time and just giving us those insights. That's independent analyst Khaya Sithole and the Financial Sector Conduct Authority's Kershia Singh.